Yeah.
Hello.
Right, hello. We're back after quite a long break. But, of course, we never forgot about you and this channel.
No, we've been doing what we can to get everything sorted.
Yes.
It's just primarily the reason why there hasn't been any videos recently is technical issues. It's probably the best way to sum it up.
Not just technical, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But that's life. And also Doctor Who's in a bit of a lull at the moment. So, you know.
Yeah.
Not from our minds, of course, but I mean as in terms of the show isn't on for another bloody year. But of course, there's a lot you can cover in that time, and we will. And I think coming back, the first priority is to fulfill the request.
Yes, I promise.
Of one of our patrons. Because if you join the Master tier on our Patreon page, you get to request a video. Now, this person probably didn't expect us to do this, because they requested it quite a while ago, and they thought it was a bit of a lame idea. This, of course, being Brighter.
Hello, Brighter.
Who asked us to do a video about the best episodes in regards to direction, editing, and sound. So I shall read out what Brighter has said. But before I do that, I'll just remind you, if you want to check us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani. And if you want to check us out on Twitter, it's twitter.com/GAndrozani.
And on Patreon, we're starting now to have added more content than just early access. There's going to be some Patreon exclusive stuff.
Yeah, like commentaries, quick reviews, just sort of off-the-cuff stuff that we can do very easily for a bit of supplemental stuff. Because a lot of these big reviews take a lot of time and effort to do, but if we can just add on top of that just to reward the patrons, I think that would be a great idea.
I think audio commentaries are the big one that's going to be coming.
They're the easiest to do.
Yeah. And the easiest to digest as well,
yes.
I think.
And also, in terms of the channel in general, we've gotten in contact with some other WhoTubers, so we're hopefully going to be doing some more crossovers in the future, which will be fun. And also looking into non-Who content as well. But of course, the priority will always be the Doctor Who content.
Yeah.
Right, so Brighter has suggested us this, and they said maybe the scenes or episodes or both that you guys think contain great directing, editing, and sound. For example, the scene in The Impossible Planet when Toby is stood outside and then the Force smashes the window. Murray Gold's music totally adds to an already beautiful scene. The use of direction and sound or lack of in 42 when Martha is jettisoned in the escape pod.
Yeah.
The whole scene is very Kubrick. Midnight is a masterclass in single set direction, and the sound editing is first class. Those sorts of things. Great moments of direction, editing, and sound. Don't worry if it's a dull suggestion and you don't think it would be a lousy video to do, just a suggestion. Well, it's not lousy. You can't have a captivating story without directing, editing, and sound.
Yeah.
Because someone has to put all the pieces into place, and an expert can make it magical. So, we'll start with your first suggestion, which was The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, which was directed by James Strong, edited by Mike Jones, and of course scored by Murray Gold.
Yes, indeed.
The first thing I would say about this story is I think if you're someone who's jumping onto New Who, this is the first time that not only do they travel to an alien planet that's not New Earth, but it's the first time that the show really goes hardcore with the sci-fi.
Yeah.
And the more out-there elements.
And also, in terms of not just sci-fi, but sort of fantasy elements as well.
Yeah.
And just it being odd. Like, dealing with kind of... I mean, obviously the beast is presented as the typical representation of the devil, big red horns, but that kind of Lovecraftian, otherworldly, supernatural, unknown.
It's very reminiscent, not just because of the voice actor, but very reminiscent of Pyramids of Mars.
God, yeah.
But in a new sort of way.
And also because Sutekh and the beast are very different.
Yeah. But the main thing for me with that story is, I think any scene that revolves around Toby the character, the directing, editing, and sound is as good as it could possibly get.
Well, I don't speak for you, but on my behalf, I think that the scene where
don't look, don't turn around, don't look.
you feel the breath on the back of your neck just because of the way it's shot, and you're so close and intimate with Toby at that point. You feel his just crippling anxiety at that point.
Yeah, and I remember watching this as a kid thinking, this doesn't feel like the Doctor Who I know. This feels like some sci-fi movie at 9:30 p.m. like that I shouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
And it's fucking scary as shit.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. The that shot of Toby that Brighter mentioned, where he's outside the window without a suit and just smiles at them.
Yeah.
It's straight out of horror.
And,
it's great.
And I think one other thing is, at the very start of the story, it's very routine, and then things get introduced like the ood and the carving, the strange language on the wall.
The TARDIS can't translate.
But I think the biggest moment is when they see the black hole and that music plays, that otherworldly music that it was completely different to anything Murray Gold had done before in the series. It's got very old strings and...
Have you seen Event Horizon?
No, but I've heard that it's very similar.
Yeah, Event Horizon is much more of a physical, like it's an R-rated body horror, and that element comes into play. But the atmosphere is very similar, though Satan Pit, Impossible Planet are vastly superior. It's not as good as people make it out to be.
Funnily enough, because it's on it's TV, BBC TV.
But the limitations actually make it better. Like, there's scenes in Event Horizon where you see stuff, and it's like, that would have been cooler if it was suggested. Whereas you compare the scene where the Doctor's talking about Rose, and it's just him in complete black.
Yeah.
That emptiness, that shallowness, is just, it's just so cold, and it feels like limbo.
And it also, it kind of... in terms of character, not just direction, but the character writing as well. It's completely irrelevant, but basically the way the direction tells the story of the Doctor in that situation, it kind of outlines how his character is feeling at that point in the series.
Yeah,
very isolated.
Yeah.
And when he has faces demons metaphorically. But yeah, and it's like not just the black hole scene, not just that, but also the scene where Toby breaks the glass. Like, it's the same music, the same atmosphere, the same direction.
It's piercing.
Yeah. And I think the shift in style of how it was made from everything that had come before in New Who was a big shock. And I can't wait till Jake sees it, because that's the next fucking story.
Yeah, and it's surely, I mean, I imagine you guys think this as well, surely, based on what he has said in previous episodes, he's going to love that two-parter.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, I don't get him. I don't understand his brain.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
One of my best friends, that's his favourite Doctor Who story of all time. Yeah. Just because, I mean, he grew up in a very... like a hard Christian family. Yeah. So to see the Satan Pit, he was like, what's this?
Yeah.
He was like just gobsmacked by it.
Yeah. And also, on a completely different level, it's like Doom as well. Sci-fi base under siege, and then you just add that, hell.
Yeah.
It's great. And also, it reminds you, me, of stuff like Aliens, and Alien, specifically Alien, the Ridley Scott one, when they're crawling through the vents and the Ood are pursuing them.
Yeah.
It's just so, like, constricting and claustrophobic. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wonderful story.
Yeah.
One of my favourites. So moving on from that, we'll go to Classic Who. The Talons of Wang Qiang, directed by David Maloney, edited by David Lee, and, of course, scored by Dudley Simpson. I mean, it's just a gorgeous episode. Like, it just looks incredible. Like,
it's dripping.
And with as the finale of the Hinchcliffe era, it's so fitting.
Yeah.
It's especially the scenes where they're underground.
Yeah.
Just reminiscent. It's reminiscent of another story we're going to talk about from Troughton's era later on.
Yes.
It's just incredible, and even like all the location stuff they did on film looks great. Everything, and all the sets, that old tangible wooden feel, all the costumes, because that's part of the direction as well. Like, except there's no scarf, but that's relevant. But yeah, the Chinese sound effects and score that Dudley Simpson put in. It's also, in terms of editing, it's done very well in terms of comedy, but also tension. Yeah, Talons of Wang Qiang is a very slick story, I'd say.
Well, you bring up that point of comedy because it is a very funny serial.
Yeah.
But that comes down to the editing because editing, horror and comedy, when it comes to editing, are almost identical.
Yeah.
And to be able to balance the two of them,
I mean,
is
to be fair,
a skill.
To be fair, what you were working with was a Robert Holmes script, so you had a good.
It was given to you on a silver platter, but still, credit where credit is due.
To take that and nail it was great.
Yeah.
And just also like the blocking too, like those. There's so many great spatial like awareness scenes in Talons of, like there's the scene in the what's it called, like the room where they show they do the shows.
Yeah.
What's it called again? It's a
the
set in the Shakespeare Code. What's it called? It's a theatre.
Yeah.
It's a theatre. And like and the fact that you've got a scene where you've got the Doctor in the stands and Le Sang Cheng throws a gun at him, and it doesn't feel confusing. It all feels like
it's cohesive.
It's cohesive.
It's the opposite of our complaints with New Earth.
Yeah.
Where there is a clear, it just through virtue of placement of blocking, placement of shot composition, and also the way those have been seamed together in the editing, there is a cohesion to it all.
Yeah.
On top of it, dripping with atmosphere, especially the theatre stuff you mentioned,
the timing,
like
the timing of shots is so flawless.
Yeah,
everything is so perfectly.
It's
paced.
clockwork. It's clockwork.
Absolute brilliant story. And that's one of those stories where literally every single element of it works.
Yeah,
it just amalgamates to a masterpiece. 42.
Interesting.
I think the main topic here is Graham Harper.
Yes.
But of course they did mention the cutting off the sound when Martha's jettisoned, so she's like banging.
It's gorgeous,
But I think the highlight of the story is Graham Harper's direction.
Well, the whole thing feels hot watching it.
Yeah.
It feels so sticking, like humid.
And you know that was funny because in Snuggly Chibnall time that Stu Bagford, they're talking about how Chibnall's going around with a sweat bucket. That's actually Graham Harper, not Chibnall.
Yeah. No, but it looks good. Like it just looks so convincing. Like I just did it subconsciously. Then you want to wipe your brows. Yeah.
Orange. Whenever someone says 42, you just think of orange and sweat and.
When the weakest story in your series has some fucking awesome directing, you know you're a good series.
And when I was a kid, I think 42 and Utopia used to, and we're going to mention that later, used to blend in my brain because they look so similar.
Yeah, it's Graham Harper.
Yeah, I think that is the most memorable thing about 42 is the direction.
Well, that's the thing. Is because it had been this is a few years back now, but it had been a few years since, because it was usually my skip when watching Series 3.
Yeah.
I'd skip most of it, at least except for the Martha Saxon parts, when she's talking to her mum. But I forgot everything else about the plot.
Yeah.
Just because it's a Chibnall script, so it's inherently pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But visually, I remembered it.
Yeah.
I don't remember the content of what happened. I remember the image of the Doctor's eyes burning as he screams in pain. I didn't remember the burn with me. I didn't remember that shit. I just remembered the way it looked because it's so
orange.
It sticks out.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does look a bit like a movie, like a low budget movie.
Yeah. It's very well done.
It's got really good zooming as well.
Because that can if that's not well done, that can ruin a moment, but it doesn't.
Yeah. But 42 stands out in the sense of its production values for sure.
Absolutely.
Just unfortunately the script is boring.
Very, very boring.
Right. Moving on to one of my favourite Doctor Who stories, The Time Meddler. Time Meddler is a story that is set on a beachside, yet Douglas Canfield makes it feel like an entire world.
Yeah.
It is an extraordinary, beautiful story. Like, it's those scenes where the monk is sitting on the cliff top and there's wind blowing through the grass.
Yes.
It actually feels like a fantasy world, even though this is just England in 1066 and it's filmed inside a set inside the BBC in the 60s.
They make it so rich. The contrast. Again, this made black and white I find black and white inherently makes things look better because it's easier to find a beautiful contrast.
Yeah.
Whereas where you have the whole spectrum of colours, it can become
Yeah.
a bit of a mishmash. Whereas it's
Yeah.
black, white, and you've got shades of black, shades of white.
Yeah, but this is again similar to like Anti-New Earth. This is a story with flawless geography.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of small shite sets, and you still feel it.
It all comes down to how something's shot, not
Like
what
I
it
can
is
honestly
that's been
tell
shot.
you in my head where they are on the map during the story, because it's visualized so well. This TARDIS lands on the beach. They walk up the hill.
Yeah.
And then there's the grass bit, and then there's that little village with that woman and those her husband and whatnot.
Yes, yeah.
And then up the hill is the monks' monastery, and you can see it in the background, and it looks convincing because of the shadows.
Yeah.
And how it's shot. And to do with the sound, they use the stock like monk music.
The choral kind of throaty thing.
And then on top of that, you've also got the fact that there's Vikings on the water, and that's convincing. And then you've also got the fact that the monk has a TARDIS as well, and that's shot great too. Like all the dimensions fit. And the fact that it's a set with so many trees, but the trees all look real.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just it's shot gorgeously. It just looks real, as you said. Yeah,
every time I watch the Time Endler, I'm sucked in from start to finish.
Yeah, it's not.
I never get bored of it ever.
No, and you're not pulled out of it from little
and part of that is to do with the acting and the script too, because Dennis Spooner is brilliant, and the actors in it are brilliant. Peter Butterworth, William Hartnell, all that jazz. Peter Purvis, Gordon O'Brien. Those are great too, but the direction mainly, I think, is a big part of why I love that story so much. The atmosphere is just out of this world. Speaking of atmosphere, midnight.
What do I need to say? It's fucking great. It's penetrating.
Yeah.
It's
directed by a woman named Alice Troughton, who has no relation to
That's right, yeah.
Patrick Troughton
or
David Troughton.
David Troughton, who's in the episode.
Yeah.
But so good.
I
it's
think,
so simple.
Yeah, I think the most impressive part of this is the ADR.
Well, yeah, God, yeah. But what this episode proves is, especially when it comes to horror, less is more. You don't see the thing. You just hear banging on the sounds. You see it. You sort of see it learning, but we also don't know if it was learning or just toying with them.
Yeah.
Like, it could have studied their language every time a bus went past, and we don't know anything about it. It's this... That's just the writing. But the way it is presented by not being presented is just so good.
In terms of audio, it could easily work as a Big Finish audio as well.
Well,
because they got the visuals too, they also made it really frightening to look at.
You'd be remiss without mentioning the midnight score.
Yeah, oh yes.
It's just so... Again, penetrating. It makes you feel unsafe.
And also, in terms of not just ADR sound, which was incredible, like the actors managed to pull that off, but also the chopping between all the actors when they're
because
panicking.
Shooting in one space with that many characters is not easy.
Yeah.
Because of thing you're worrying about crossing the line and all that other stuff.
It does.
But
I think this is one of the best examples of when. Because Russell T Davies is a very emotional writer, regardless of what he's writing. It's one of the best examples of where the direction, the editing, and the sound express perfectly what emotion he wants you to feel from the episode.
Yeah,
it really hooks you in, like, ugh.
Yeah, and on top of that, the way it starts by sort of being inviting and really friendly, and then obviously gets overwhelming with all the screens and stuff, and the way we establish all these characters by cutting between them and hearing a bit of their dialogue, and we just get this cohesive idea of who they all are and what they all sort of stand for or where they're coming from a little bit. And obviously as the episode goes on, we learn a bit more. Yeah. And then shit hits the fan just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and there's so many iconic shots too, like the two shot of the Doctor and Sky, and then there's also the shot of, like, basically the zooming on David Tennant's face.
And also that fucking shot where the Doctor is trying to do what he usually does, where he's like, don't worry, I've got this, but you just see Sky curled up in the background.
And just silhouette on the wall getting bigger, and it's like, it's spine tingling.
It's fantastic. The use of shadows, and
then when it all ends, the way it slows down, and like you just feel how tired they all are after this.
You feel like you've been holding your breath for 45 minutes.
I love when it jumps in time and it tells you how long it's been jumping in time. Like, it does it at the start and also does it at the end as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Also, just when the Doctor goes into the cockpit, it's like, go on. And it's the Doctor's usual way of, expressing wonder and enjoying this alien environment. Then the shutter goes down slowly, and just before it closes, the timing of it, the directing and editing of that particular moment is stellar. Where he goes, wait, what's that? Yeah. It's like, what? I don't see anything. What? And we see it briefly. I think everyone's pointing out to a specific shadow. I think that's not actually, that's just playing tricks with your mind.
Yeah.
But it's so effective that people have paused it and looked at that and freaked themselves out because there's so many variables in that massive space there that you don't know exactly what the pilot was looking at. Yeah. And then it's shut. You know it's coming. You know something's there.
But you can't see it because you're closed in.
It is. So, cliffhanger to the first episode of the Censorites. That last one where there's this unknown creature staring in.
Yeah.
Piercing. Awful.
Yeah. To
the nth degree.
Yeah.
Because we know it's there.
But you don't know what it is.
And we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
We don't know how far away it is. It's not this tangible thing. It's just this force.
Yeah.
It's this unrelenting force. This unknown factor. It's the pure fear of the unknown. And the directing paired with the beautiful writing just makes perfect television.
Yeah. And the way, and also this is a story where obviously in terms of the writing it fits the 10th Doctor, but in terms of the way it's presented could work in any era of Doctor Who with any Doctor, any companion, obviously not companion, but any like it could easily be a black and white 60s story, it could easily be a Hinchcliffe story, it could easily be like a McCoy story, could be a Paul McGann Big Finish story, could be a Capaldi introspective story.
You could see it, I could see it really working with Peter Davison. Because he's so fresh and innocent, and then having this just
it'd be a great penultimate to the Caves of Androzani story.
Oh, it'd just be spectacular.
Yeah,
it'd be spectacular.
But no, Midnight is one of the best made stories, and
one of the best pieces of television ever made.
Yep, basically.
It's just extraordinary.
Yeah. Right, the Daleks.
Yes.
So this one's kind of interesting because. So we'll start with one that's consistent all the way through, is the sound. It's Tristram Carey's score is one of the most unnerving, unsettling, and just so weird scores ever in the whole show. They reused it again in Power of the Daleks to even better degree.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't included that story in this list because we can't see it, so we can't judge the direction. But Tristram Carey's score for the Daleks is just incredible.
It's so, and
never gets old as well.
Yeah, and there's elements. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, it's
consistent. It's consistent throughout all 7 parts, and it never gets stale. It's so unnerving.
Yeah, which I think there's another episode later on which has a very similar thing, which we'll talk about. But what I love about the Daleks is how many things and how many beats and sort of cliches now by the show's standard were started in that episode.
Yeah.
Like the POV of the monster walking down the hall, following the
I was going to get onto the direction.
Yeah.
So this story has 2 directors. So the first is Chris Barry, who's one of the best ever. I think he did the first 4 episodes. But then the last 3 is Richard Martin, who's significantly less good than Chris Barry. Richard Martin isn't. I wouldn't say he's necessarily bad, but I think he's inconsistent. He did the Dalek Invasion of Earth, I think, and that's quite a highly criticised story for its direction.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things that lets that story down.
So I think Richard Martin kind of feels like a poor version of what Chris Barry was doing. So that's one sort of flaw, I think, with it. But the Chris Barry portion of the Daleks, the direction is some of the scariest television I've ever seen, especially episode 1. It's literally 4 people walking around a city for 25 minutes and nothing happens, yet it's the most atmospheric, unnerving television ever.
Again, it's that unknown quantity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called the Daleks, so by today's standard, Dalek's going to show up. It still makes the Daleks seem so alien and so threatening, despite the fact that they're a part of pop culture.
Your dad said it's the scariest TV he's ever watched.
Yeah, he remembers being a child watching it and being like, what is this? What's
and it's also the story that put Doctor Who on the map as well. It's the reason why we're still here.
Dalek Mania, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Dalek Mania.
Yeah. I don't know if I could say more than that.
No, it's go watch it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
It's very simple, but it's some of the most atmospheric TV you ever watch. Oh, brilliant. So, speaking of Dalek stories,
yes,
this one I give credit to for the directing, the editing, and the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways.
Well, you can take this one. Go for it.
I think this is the best edited episode of Doctor Who ever.
It's one of the best, but I slightly disagree. There's an episode later on the list which I think is much tighter.
All right. I don't think there is an episode that has better transitions.
That's fair.
I think Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways from start to finish is one of the most. Jake.
Pace.
What did Jake describe it as in the review? He said it was so aesthetically pleasing on every level as an editor.
Because it's just constant forward momentum.
But like every shot blends into one another. Every shot is shot well, and the fact that it's a mix of real and CGI, but it all feels naturally fitting together, which is so different to a lot of the other stories surrounding it, like Long Game, End of the World, New Earth, where the CGI was so ambitious, but it wasn't. They didn't masterfully put it together.
Yeah.
But for some reason, with this finale, they just got it bang on. It looks incredible, even by today's standards. I think for me, the one, if I was to pick one shot, I mean there are a few, but one in particular that I always remember is that it's near the end of Bad Wolf. We are just figuring out what the hell's going on with this plot, and you see the sun rise over the Earth, in front and behind the spaceship. And then on top of that, you've also got the shot where the Dalek ships are all revealed in a zoom out as well.
Linda's death scene.
Oh, brilliant. And then there's basically everything that happens towards the end of the story as well. With you got so many like extreme wide shots with Daleks crawling into an area. It's almost like an ant infesting a colony.
But also because of the whole series 1.
Yeah.
The fact that the Daleks have these Time War renewed Daleks have been shown to be extremely powerful.
Yeah.
To have that many penetrating and attacking and infiltrating this small space is just fearsome.
Oh, and also I forgot to mention the game shows too. Editing and directing and sound. It's all blended together perfectly.
And they replicate the actual shows that they're parodying.
Yeah, really well too. Like the transitions between them as well. And in terms of editing, the pace is so perfectly balanced between all the plots going on. They're all given around about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's not just part 1, that's part 2 as well. When they're cutting between the spaceship and the past, it's not confusing. It's very well done. It's like there's a shot where it's so intense where the Doctor's like talking to the Emperor Dalek, and then it cuts to these like chickens on a rotisserie, and you just hear Jackie's voice, and you just suddenly feel warm again. And there's what else is there? There's the scene with the Bad Wolf on the concrete as well, and then there's like the moment where Mickey and Rose are in doubt, and then you just hear this noise of a truck, and then you see it go around. Like it's moments like that where everything just blends together, and all the storytelling just works.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Brilliant, absolutely.
Yeah. So many iconic shots, I think. Yeah.
Well, Rose coming out as Bad Wolf is another.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and just like the light as well.
The way it's gold?
Yeah. It's an episode with great lighting, too. In both parts. I was just trying to think, is there anything else?
No, I think I pretty much did it, yeah.
It's just the best. So yeah, Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways. Right, one that we've watched recently and reviewed, The Creature from the Pit.
Yeah.
Christopher Barry's direction.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. I did not expect the director of the Daleks to be doing that story.
Yeah, and it's good.
Yeah.
There's
There's that one shot where it's like going through the wall.
Yeah, and also, well, they did that in bloody Leisure Hive as well. But in Creature from the Pit, the way they distinguish the society above and then the underground
the beast
beneath
below.
the beast. I was avoiding saying it. The creature below. Those two worlds, the way they differentiate them and just give them their own tonal and visual consistency, again, without it seeming distracting from one another. It's not, I mean, they are inherently incongruous because one's a bit more clean and one's much dank and dirty and wet. But the way they flow together doesn't feel jarring.
Yeah.
It's very clever.
Yeah, and on all those scenes when they're in the forest look incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically anything that Chris Barry directed just looks great.
It does.
Yeah, I think I was just so damn surprised at how great the direction was of that story. Because I went into it thinking it was going to be garbage, and it wasn't.
Yeah, no, it was great.
I really liked it.
Yeah, really, really. It's a fun, pulpy story.
And the direction is one of the reasons. Chris Barry does what... Actually, to be fair, there's an extreme wide shot where it shows the size of the creature, and it's really convincing.
Yeah.
It's something that you...
It's just when it gets up close and they have the weird sort of, the infamous creature, when they have it up close, it looks kind of crappy. But in that big wide shot, I'm not sure if it was, I can't remember if it was a puppet or if it was a matte painting or something.
Yeah.
But whatever it was effective. Very simple, but effective.
Yeah.
Again, lesson to take away. If any of you go on to direct episodes of Doctor Who, less is more.
Correct. That episode was edited by someone called Mac Adams, and the M, A, and C are separated.
Mackenzie Adams, Carol Adams.
Anyway, back to New Who. The God Complex.
What do we need to say about it? I think everyone here has seen it. They can tell. It's just immediately, as soon as they arrive in the episode, something's off.
So Nick Curran directed this. I think I heard somewhere he got chosen for Day of the Doctor because of the God Complex.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Checks out.
It looks, and it's just the hotel.
As soon as you get there, I'm not sure which not sure which lens he chose, but as soon as you get there, it's a slight wide angle lens, and it just looks slightly off.
Yeah.
Not quite fishbowl, but there's something off about the way it looks. Yeah.
And it's like, if you've ever been to a hotel, it can actually look quite boring, but he makes it look fucking scary, like the way it multiplies. And I love the shots of... It's not quite Scooby-Doo, because it's not a joke, but like when Matt Smith's walking through all the rooms and the camera stays still.
It's kind of like, it's like Portal.
Yeah.
I think it's closer to Portal, would probably be the best comparison. It
really transports you.
Yeah. And the
editing as well. The editing is outstanding.
And when someone has a big prosthetic creature, I always love prosthetic creatures, even if they're kind of crappy, because I love creature design, and if it's bad practical, I will easily accept it over bad CGI.
Yeah.
And that Minotaur could have easily been clunky and humorous.
Yeah.
But the way Nick Curran
the
way Nick Curran directs around it is just eyes, and then the horns, and then the hooves, and then we do get a couple shots in full scale. But when you get to it being in a wide shot, often it's stationary, so the movement looks natural and it's not distracting.
And I love the way he uses staircases to change the angle. Yeah. So like, I think there's one where the doctor's talking to that Indian doctor girl, and there's like a down slope angle. Yeah. It's sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but the way that he directs it, it's almost like the doctor is assuming that she's sort of his temporary companion.
Well, it's what's in the script as well. Yeah. And when he's like, call me. He's like, haha, no, don't worry, Amy and Rory. Yeah. And call me.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the scene with all the in the dining room with all those dolls. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was the trailer shot, because they're like, creepy dolls will get anyone's attention. Yeah. Just turn the head. Oop, there it is.
It's funny, the God Complex is like, it's one of those series 6/7 episodes. It's like, it's got a gimmick, but it actually worked really well.
It feels like something beyond the season it's in.
Oh yeah, it's my favourite episode of that season. Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers for later down the line.
Yeah.
Same here.
God Complex is a masterpiece and it's underrated.
Yeah.
Going back to Classic Huda, one of my favourites in regards to atmosphere, direction, sound. The Moonbase.
Yeah.
That soundtrack is insane.
Mm.
Again, like the Tristram Carey Dalek theme, it's the same thing where it's consistent throughout the whole story. But it never gets stale.
No.
Always lingers, always, and it always gives you that feeling of the Sidemen are there,
Yeah.
but they're hiding.
Yeah. It's like they have no need to strike yet, but they will.
Yeah. And the soundtrack stays consistent through the animated episodes as well.
Mm.
Which really helps maintain that atmosphere.
And what's great is, I mean, basically every black and white Sidemen story makes them look horrific.
Yeah.
But this one in particular as well, like they just.
Oh, there's that scene where they're walking on the moon and it just shows their legs and it's like.
Yeah. It just feels.
And they move slowly and there's like that wide shot where they just. It looks like. It's interesting how it came before the moon landing.
Yeah.
But it looks similar to when we saw footage of
Neil
Armstrong on the moon.
Yeah.
But with it's the Cybermen, and it's.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, the Moonbase is one of the most atmospheric stories, and I think for a long time, I don't think anymore since the DVD release, but for a long time it went underrated because it was sort of Tomb of the Cybermen's younger brother.
Yeah.
But I would argue, I think the direction of the Moonbase is actually better than Tomb of the Cybermen.
I think so too.
Even though I think Tomb of the Cybermen's a better story overall.
And also, as much as I love the soundtrack of the Moonbase, I cannot say I prefer it to the Tomb of the Cybermen music.
I think Tomb of the Cybermen's a better story. It's more iconic,
Yeah.
but in terms of the atmosphere and the direction,
in terms of direction alone, I think Moonbase is better.
Moonbase is the better story. It's absolutely outstanding.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah. Right, back to New Who. Another one that, on rewatch, surprised us.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, because Creature from the Pit we watched, we didn't know what to expect and we were surprised at how good it was. So the next one we're going to talk about is one that we rewatched and were surprised at how great it looked, and that was Tooth and Claw.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I remember it looking kind of muddy on DVD. I remember it looking kind of muddy on Blu-ray. It's like what was there the whole time, but was just
looks like a movie from 2010.
It's gorgeous,
and it's especially surprising because it's directed by Euros Lyn, who also did New Earth.
Yeah, but what's crazy is it, like, even though it's shot on digital, it looks like it's been shot on film.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of the, I don't know what it is, the filters they've used on the lenses and the way they've used the CGI models. And
I was checking just in case it was just the disc version. I rewatched a couple of scenes of it on Netflix. It's the same. It's
the HD version.
HD version of Tooth and Claw is outstanding.
Yeah, because like I imagine Euros Lyn on his monitor, what he saw was what we now see on final cut on HD.
Yeah.
Because I always remember, as I said, it being good looking, but kind of murky.
Yeah.
But this is cool. Like, it looks cool. Not as in like hip cool. Like cold. It looks.
It's freezing cold temperature.
Yeah.
And this is a story that has like the Kung Fu monster, the orange.
Oh, the contrast is...
but like it's like these guys are from a different world, so the storytelling is actually improved.
Yeah.
With the upgrade as well, because it's like these guys are separate to what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in terms of the directions, a lot of ambitious shots too.
Yeah.
So there's one with like when the guy gets pushed into the water, and it's a view from inside the water of his face.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
And also the bit with Tennant and the wolf at the door.
Yep. Yep.
Foreshadowing what comes later.
Yep. And there's also the shots of when people are being killed. Obviously, they can't show extreme violence in a family show, so they have like the cutting to like it's like an animation of the wolf like like up and close, and then the face of the person dying. Oof. It's got that real gothic horror feel to it.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It's because it's a specific, because gothic horror, like this. It's hard to explain that video for another time, but what it is the type of gothic horror it's going for, it nails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a sort of fantasy gothic
Yeah,
horror.
especially for a kids show. Not kids, but like a family show.
Yeah.
A show that kids will be watching.
Yeah.
To translate that atmosphere and do it successfully works really well.
Yeah.
Because it could very easily, and I remember it looking kind of like a Scooby-Doo. Like how Scooby-Doo felt even though it was 2D. And then rewatching it on this, I'm like, no, this is genuinely atmospheric.
Yeah.
What if you can watch it on HD?
Yeah, the Blu-ray 1080 version is
stunning. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited to see if any other stories are like that on Blu-ray, like if they'll change. I don't know, because the versions that we saw from like Planet of the Dead onwards, we would have already seen them in their HD form, so we haven't got a lot left to see. Midnight.
Daleks in Manhattan.
Ooh,
that's probably going to look good.
That's coming up soon.
Yeah.
And Satan Pit, we'll be interested to see.
Shakespeare Code will probably look good as well.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Human Nature, Family of Blood.
Oh fuck.
I mean, that already looks stunning. Yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tooth and Claw is an episode that always looked great, but we didn't realize it until...
Yeah, the Blu-ray transfer really did it justice. Because sometimes Blu-ray transfers, they're like, okay, it's the same thing.
It did the opposite to New Earth. It made it look worse, way worse. Funnily enough, the same director.
Yeah.
I guess the rule is like dark lighting is easier with CGI than crayons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Back to Classic Who again. Inferno.
It's relentless. It's just from the moment go, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And you know what's crazy?
Similar to the Daleks, but like even more so. The first 2 episodes, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But all the seeds of the story are being fed to you through these small details.
It's an epic.
Yeah, and then once you hit episode 3 and the Doctor gets into that transport into that alternate universe, everything changes, and it's like, oh. And there's an entire episode where John Pert was just running around and doing action scenes, and it's amazing.
It's just it feels like there's this, because of obviously the writing as well, but the direction. There's a constant sense of impending doom.
Yeah,
it just feels grim.
Yeah, and like all the reveals of like the characters that we know, but all the reveals of them in the alternate universe done so well. Like the chair turning around with Brigade Leader.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously some of the effects are still aged, but in terms of the story itself, it's so well put together.
It's crafted beautifully. It's sewn together gorgeously. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the main thing for me with Inferno is the action scenes.
Oh yeah.
The action scenes are insane.
It's a tapestry of Pertwee. It's just
even though I haven't seen the other story I'm about to mention, I would also give an honourable mention to the action scenes from Ambassadors of Death. I've seen some of those there. It looks genuinely like a James Bond film. Really ambitious stuff.
Spearhead from Space is another one.
Oh yeah, season 7 in general.
Yeah, that's just...
Yeah. Basically,
more people should shoot on film.
Derek Sherwin was short-lived in his role as producer. Only produced 2 stories and had influence over the next 3 afterwards, but what he did for the show in the short time he had was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because the War Games as well. On a completely different like camera work, and it's black and white, different crew and everything.
And it's just, 60s camera. Yeah. Or it's studio camera, so it's just put it on the legs, shoot. It's just...
And he managed to capture the same thing that was carried over to season 7.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he was only around for that long in the role, but what we got from him was great. And Inferno, I think, is just another example of that. It's just a constantly impending feeling throughout. Right.
Yes.
Utopia. Graham Harper again, and Murray Gold.
What can we say?
I watched it recently.
Same.
Exactly. It's when I was watching it, because I've watched a lot of Classic Who recently. I was surprised to feel this is basically just a newer version of Classic Who.
It feels like Classic Who, yeah. Again, we compare it in Colony of Space. We drew a lot of parallels, but it does feel like a darker version of Colony in Space with Tennant instead of Pertwee.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the sort of most New Who part of it is the team of
Jack, Martha, and
Tennant. But in terms of the story and the direction and the feel of it, feels like Classic Who. There's that shot of, I think it's a matte painting or a CGI, when they were looking down
of the
whole
whatever the Doctor calls it, and then you're like, you're supposed to say sorry, whatever that he calls it, the conclave, I think. Yeah,
but that's at the very start of the story, and I think that shot actually makes it feel bigger than just another quarry.
Absolutely, because it could have very easily been just exactly that. But also, there's lots of little things that remind me of Classic Who. When Yana and the Doctor are putting the fibre wires into the wall, and they're having a conversation through the glass.
Oh yeah.
And it just looks, and it looks like Classic Who, but it also just looks gorgeous.
Like the mirror image of the Doctor and the Master.
Yeah, exactly, and also just.
But at the same time, it's not just that; it's also John Smith and Professor Yana working together.
Exactly.
The humans working together.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that they're both not humans.
Yeah, it's it's crazy.
And again, like I said with Inferno, the reveals, the watch.
Well, and also when Yana sees the TARDIS, and he just starts going quiet, and he's like, everyone else is hopeful,
and
like
slow zoom in on his face, and from Murray Gold.
Oh, it's genius. But the way the Doctor's like, I may have just found your way out, and the Master just white as a sheet, just. Something's wrong. I feel something, but he's not sure what it is. And then, because Martha is the audience surrogate, and she's fucking awesome, she sees the watch, and the reveal of the watch is just like...
And he's like, Yana's tears in his eyes. This horror... I mean, it's not even... Direction is part of it, but it's like this horrible thing of something's horribly wrong, but you don't remember. And the fact that it is actually you that's wrong as well.
And he can tell that it's stuck, and he can tell there's something evil in this watch, but it just...
And the direction just perfectly... And it's like, as well as the fact that I think... I've got a strange feeling that Graham Harper may have looked over some of the footage from Human Nature, because there's parallels with the watch, to Human Nature, where it's actually shot the same.
Yeah. From the low angle, looking up at the person, so yeah. There's the consistency of Series 3 is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how great he was in 42, taking an average script and heightening it with some tension. Utopia, he takes an extraordinary script and makes it one of the best ever. It's incredible.
So good.
Just the direction, like, again, what I said about Toby and Impossible Planet, the character direction around Yana.
And everyone.
Such a story.
And like that scene where Jack and the Doctor are talking with Jack's in the radiator.
Yeah, and they're like talking between the
And
glass.
he goes, Jack, and leans in closer. And I don't know if that was a Harper's direction or Tennant's instinct. Either way, it works so well. And the fact that Graham Harper decided to keep that in the cut is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Graham Harper, revelation of the Daleks.
Yes.
So, we're talking before about scale. I think this is an example of a story where they take what they have and they make it seem so much bigger than what it should be.
Yeah.
And that's great. I haven't seen this story in probably about 10 years, but I remember the visual elements of it so vividly. It's got a disgusting, horrible, nasty feeling to it.
It's slimy.
There's that there's that scene where they walk into that room, the Doctor and Perry, where they see that there's that see-through glass Dalek, and there's that human mutating inside it. It's just, it's awful. And to Graham Harper's testament, he even manages to make that damn DJ, like, the direction in the DJ scene is so whack and 80s, and it's like, he actually gave it that kind of feel.
Absolutely, yeah. It's as I said, slimy episode. It's not pleasant, but for making the Daleks horrific again, it works.
Yeah, and also, like I said before, about Graham Harper's character direction, his direction around Davros specifically,
and Terry Malloy as Davros.
But yeah, Revelation of the Daleks has out of all the Colin Baker stories, is probably the most iconic imagery for me, just in my head. I haven't seen it in so long. Like, it's probably been since, 2013, I'd say, maybe even before that, maybe like 2010, since I last saw it. But honestly, like, it's stuck with me.
Yeah.
It's stuck with me so much. And, yeah, Graham Harper he makes it feel otherworldly where they go. I can't remember what it's called, the planet.
That's escaping me, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get around to it at some point.
I can't wait to rewatch that one, because it's been so long, and I remember loving it. Continuing with the Graham Harper conversation.
Train.
The Waters of Mars. My favourite New Who story.
It's good.
It's more than good.
It's very good.
It's fucking extraordinary. It's the first... Planet of the Dead was the first time that they got into the HD cameras, but it was a fast shoot and it looked kind of naff. But Waters of Mars was when they really kicked into gear.
It felt like...
a movie.
I was about to say, it felt like this is the movie adaptation of Tennant's series. Like, this was... You know when the Simpsons movie came out and the animation was just that bit slicker and everything?
I had that recently, yesterday. I've been taking my friend through Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a bit of a weird tangent, but after season 3, there's a movie, and the animation is so much better.
It's like Pokemon as well. Yeah.
Like the budget's higher, and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, they actually have the proper print on them as well. Same thing. It's like that, basically. Like as you said, the Simpsons movie too. The budget's bigger. The cameras are slicker.
I'm not sure if you've seen Firefly/Serenity.
I've heard of it, yeah.
But Serenity, the movie of it, like it feels the same, but just so much slicker and bigger and gorgeous. Like, I mean, it's a tangent, but Serenity is also really well directed. There's the way they reintroduce all the characters by doing one long tracking shot through 3 levels of the ship is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Watch Firefly, then watch Serenity, then get mad it got cancelled.
Yes. Yeah. Waters of Mars is incredible. Again, character directing from Graham Harper, and not just one. All the characters in Waters of Mars, and the villains, and the ship, and the planet, and everything. I 100% believe that was Mars. Absolutely.
Yeah. They shot on location.
And like how the way he shoots every single death as well.
Yeah.
Is that one where the guy looks up and the drop hits
just
his
a single
face?
drop, yeah.
Oh. Brilliant.
And also in the background, the first woman when she starts twitching in the background, and the guy's talking about the carrots and just. And
like the almost like a it looks like the really when you go to like really hardcore churches and they do like the whole like the hand on the head thing and they're like shaking.
the like evangelical.
It looks like that, but it's like really scary because they're dripping with water. It's unsettling. Yeah, very unsettling. And also to speak of the sound, Murray Gold's score, the way he, not just with the music, but the way he phases the sound in and out. So sometimes the Doctor goes a bit deaf because he's a bit like
disassociating.
I don't know what to do here.
He's trying to disassociate himself, but that
and the editing as well.
Yeah, obviously, and then the whenever it goes to such and such, and then birth date and death date, it's
editing.
Yeah, the editing's
incredible. Flawless. I think the next one is also Graham Harper.
Of course it is.
But of course I think it's the last one on this list. Of course, you had to finish his run with the Caves of Androzani. And I was talking about character directing.
It's so subtle. It's so subtle. The villain is in a mask the whole time. We barely see his mouth can barely move.
And also Morgus as well.
Yes.
It's almost like he's breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
But it's like he's like talking to not us. It's weird. I've never had that before.
And it's just sorry. Yeah. If you finish your point.
Like I've never seen this before where a character looks right at the camera, but you feel like he's not actually looking at you.
He's looking. It's like he's looking at something past you
or through you.
Yeah. It's like. I'm not sure if we can achieve this, but if we look slightly to the right or to the left of the center of the lens there, it should look like we're almost like looking over the audience's shoulder, or slightly off.
Yeah.
And it's again piercing.
Yeah.
It's just so like invasive,
Yeah.
and also like the swallow it.
Oh,
It's just such a aggressive, grimy, an amazing story.
Yeah, and the way it's brought together with the sound and obviously the acting and the writing
Yeah.
too. Like I said, Robert Holmes script, silver platter, but Graham Harper.
Graham Harper directions, also silver platter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gold platter.
Yeah.
It's all a gold
Diamond
platter.
platter.
Yeah, platinum platter.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Like I think specifically Shiraz Jack, his scenes look insanely good for Classic Who. Insane. Oh,
When he's like
he's
monologuing,
creeping on Perry and he's like, hey.
genuine shivers down my spine.
Yeah, and I think to nail a regeneration scene to that effect,
Doctor.
with Classic Who effects as well, like the way like when Colin sits up and Davison's body is burned into the camera.
Yeah,
It's such an amazing
like the sort of, it's
transition.
almost like screen tearing,
Yeah,
and it's so good.
yeah,
And like it's like Davison didn't just disappear; he exploded away.
yeah.
Baker literally burst out of him like the chest burster from Alien.
Right, we just had to change cameras.
Yep.
For reasons. Anyway,
So we might look slightly better or slightly worse. We're not sure.
probably worse. Right, we'll talk about Caves of Androzani.
It's fucking great.
Yeah. I don't remember what else we had to talk about.
Next one.
Next one. Rightio.
I'm sure we'll cover Caves of Androzani. I'm sure we'll cover Caves of Androzani in depth.
In multiple videos.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot. You
Same with everything else on this list, probably.
Yeah, we've already covered it before anyway. Right. Obviously going back to New Who.
Yeah.
A very important one to get right, but I think, personally, they absolutely nailed it from the directing, editing and sound. The 11th Hour.
Yeah. It's just...
Completely feels like nothing from the Davies era.
No.
Completely different. But it works so well to introduce Matt Smith's Doctor.
There is a very good reason why this is most people's first episode. Because it was just so like, oh, I've heard about Doctor Who, I'll check this out. And suddenly, it's fast, it's fun, it's energetic, it's not annoying, it's not too confusing.
It's everything that the Woman Who Fell to Earth was missing.
Yeah.
The directing, the editing, the sound, and the actors and the writing all felt it was like it was together.
It was a cohesive unit.
Yeah. And it does a whole bunch of things that we never see again as well. Like there's that one where like the Doctor can see through all the different cameras, like the phone cameras and stuff. And it's like a bunch of pictures. It's like almost like a stop motion.
Yeah.
And it looks incredible. I love that. So
And also just the little things like when they're cycling through the Doctor's faces.
Yeah.
And then he just moves through and it's like, okay, this is a new era.
Yeah.
We're in a new era now.
Oh, and the fact that Murray Gold completely changed his score style.
Yeah, to a much faster tempo.
Yeah, and a more sort of fantasy sounding thing. Like he wrote like 10 themes for that one episode just to introduce like Amelia Pond and Matt Smith's Doctor and
Rory and then the Danger theme and just
and Prisoner Zero and all that. It's just incredible. And it looks so slick.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the Davies era, I do have to admit, especially for this one episode, there was a certain element of atmosphere that was returned with, I think, from this episode. It was lost eventually, I think, but for
quite smartly, quite quickly.
But for this one episode, I think particularly 11th Hour, there's something about it that feels like a fantasy. It's really, really, really hooks you in. It's one of those episodes that's it's so easy to get into.
It's really fun to watch. I watched it quite recently, like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was really fun. Really, really fun.
Yeah.
Never dull.
And in terms of editing, it's one of the in terms of pacing and editing, it's one of the most exciting.
There's such a clear purpose for everything.
And the forward momentum is upward. It's really, really awesome. Building to that climax.
Yeah. And then it ends, it reaches the climax, and then it just keeps going to an even bigger climax.
Yeah. My one and only criticism of the direction is the reveal of the TARDIS. I'm not too sure about. It's a bit too flat.
But that's because, I know this is a controversial opinion, but that's also because that TARDIS is fucking ugly. I don't care what people say. I do not like the Series 5 TARDIS. It is ugly looking. It looks like a kid who's chewed on his Lego. It is gross.
Okay, true. The one thing I would say though that I do like about it is the multiple levels.
Yeah.
Like,
and then the multiple levels come in the next TARDIS, which is the best TARDIS. Matt Smith's second TARDIS is my favourite.
Oh,
I love the cold one.
I think
with the big cylinders.
I prefer Capaldi's remix on that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, actually.
I think Matt Smith's. It was the skeleton was good, but I'm not sure.
Also, speaking of the reveals, the reveal of
Oh,
that
the
TARDIS
snowman.
is one of the best
the
TARDIS
snowman,
reveals.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun,
Probably the
dun,
best
dun,
New Who one, actually.
Yeah, because the way the camera goes from this cloudy world and tracking shot follows Clara into the.
That's one thing I love about Series 7 is all the shots that go in between settings, like setting to TARDIS to setting.
Well, like in Day of the Doctor when she
and Bells of St. John as well, they run from the TARDIS to the plane.
Yeah,
that's great.
And even a little bit in Good Man Goes to War, is it where River falls into the TARDIS?
Is that Good Man Goes to War?
Or is that Wedding of River
Song? It was Day of the Moon.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. It is Day of the Moon. That whole Series 6 blurs into one in my brain.
Except for God Complex. And Girly Waited. Which was an honourable mention for this list because it looks great.
But God Complex is just that much
better. Yeah. But I will quickly mention Girly Waited. It looks amazing. The mirrors of like Alien through the circles. Yeah. Great. Anyway. But I think with Girl Who Waited, it's more in the production design and the acting and the overall writing of it. That's the standout as opposed to what we're discussing today. But yeah, 11th Hour, great. This one's sort of a more general one. I say this because I've only seen one story from it, but I've seen visual elements. Season 18 of Classic Who. We've seen the Leisure Hive. I've seen some shots from Legopolis and Warriors Gate specifically that look incredible.
The thing is about that, from memory, it's been a while since I've seen both those, but from memory it's all very creatively ambitious.
Yeah, there's a reason why it was chosen for the Blu-ray very early.
Yeah, because it looks unique.
Yeah.
It's not always effective, but it's always like, ooh, that's interesting, especially if you're analysing it from a filmmaker's perspective. From that part of your brain, it's like, oh, I can see why they did that. That's interesting. That's really interesting that they do that, as opposed to just mount it, point, shoot. Oh, we'll do this one handheld, point, shoot.
Which is strange because as JNT's era went on, like when you got to like the late Davison, that's exactly what it turned out to be.
It became so stale.
Yeah, like I've seen some shots from the King's Demons, and it's like,
and Warriors of the Deep is one of the most boringly shot things you'll ever see.
Like, I mean, Graham Harper's the exception there with Caves of Androzani, but the rest.
But yeah, no, season 18
season visuals. 18, yeah. Warriors Gate specifically looks. I've never seen it, but it looks insanely good.
It's daring,
very white.
Yes. Yes.
And also the fact that they changed score as well. They went from Dudley Simpson to Peter Howell.
Or was Peter Howell? Was there someone before Peter Howell?
No, I think Peter Howell. I think he was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that they changed score as well and it had a different feel to it was very ambitious. I think that's the thing I respect the most about Leisure Hive and Season 18 as a whole, from what I've seen, is that side of it, direction and just
they tried to do stuff with it. It's just a shame.
Sadly, some of the stories just didn't quite get
and also because, Tom Baker was like, fuck this.
And also because they went for all new writers. They did the Series 11 thing of having no old writers, which was clearly a mistake.
This was a mistake!
Right, back to New Who.
Mm-hmm.
World Enough in Time.
It's bloody Dark Water and Death in Heaven done right.
Imagine Dark Water and Death in Heaven combined with Heaven Sent and Hellbent and mould it into one.
All the best elements
of all four episodes.
Okay. So I talked about how Satan Pit and the Impossible Planet have horror elements.
Yeah.
And Tooth and Claw has horror elements. World Enough in Time is one of the few episodes I'd straight up call a horror.
Yeah.
It's shot, edited, paced. At the beginning, it's, look at this quirky sci-fi, and then it takes a sharp L-turn into just straight up horror.
It's probably top 10, maybe even top 5 scariest Doctor Who episodes ever.
If you're a kid, it's going to scar you for years. Help me. Or kill me. That's not help me, it's kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me. And then also the whole subversion of He's like, I'm Doctor Who, and bang! That reveal of Bill with a hole in her chest, pan down.
Oh, and the editing. It's one of the best, because Moffat loves to do the whole time jumping thing, but I think in World Enough in Time it's so spot on.
Oh, it's so good.
The way it's edited is so...
And the way it's you can tell that it's Bill's been down there for so long, because she starts getting a bit wiry.
Yeah.
And you can, like, it's just such simple stuff. Yeah. Also...
but I mean specifically at the beginning of the episode when it's jumping between she just died and then it cuts back to them talking.
Yeah, just the beautiful scene.
So sad. It's like she's just died, basically.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to her and the Doctor just talking. It's like...
But also, not only that, but when they're talking on the rooftop, that scene is directed and acted beautifully. When he's talking about the Gallifrey, I'm just a sucker for when he talks about Gallifrey.
Yeah.
But
in terms of the direction and the editing
gorgeous.
and the sound, it's just it's brilliant.
And even though it's, in terms of it's been done 1,000 times before, where it's like, oh no, you're insert monster here.
Yeah.
But with the reveal of the Mondasian Cyberman,
paralleled
with the reveal of the Master, that shit is, with one tiny exception, I don't like the crash scene when John Sim takes his mask off.
Yeah, it's a little bit over the top, isn't it?
A little bit. But other than
then again, that's very Delgado-esque.
Exactly, which is what they're evoking.
You would get that in the Pertwee era.
Yeah. But no, World Enough in Time's fucking cool. When I was watching it, I was like, holy shit, Doctor Who. Because Heaven Sent, I was like, holy shit, Doctor Who's back. And then Hellbent fucking shot it in the face.
That's why we was leading up to the Doctor Falls, we're like, we don't want this to be another Hellbent. That'll be horrible.
Oh yeah, the whole week was agonizing because I was like, this is going to be Doctor Falls is going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Because Dark Water before Death in Heaven is pretty fucking good, but when paired with Death in Heaven, really falls under its own potential.
It's an even more extreme with Heaven Sent and Hellbent.
Oh, the most extreme.
Yeah.
And
so we were just like, fucking don't.
And then the Doctor Falls turned out to be fucking great.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's another episode that's directed pretty well. Maybe not as extraordinary as World Enough in Time.
There's not as much for Rachel Talalay to direct.
Yeah. I think, as I've said so many times in this video, character directing in The Doctor Falls, around the Doctor and the Masters, is really, really good. When it's like the Cyberman and then it's Bill and she's still inside it, but you can see
and
her.
And it pans round to the mirror and you see the Cyberman hand.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's so good. So good.
Oh. Woo! Rachel Talalay. Right. Big finish. Spare parts, speaking of Cybermen.
Well, it's World Enough in Time.
Basically, it's World Enough in Time, but audio, and it's fucked up and adult.
Because you have no visuals, you can get away with anything.
Yep, you can hear limbs being chopped up, and
it's
unnerving as shite.
Horrific.
And also, like the way that like the horror scenes cut with Davison's grisly voice.
It's like. Imagine if Saw wasn't goofy. That's what it's like.
Yep.
So you watch Saw and you laugh at it because it's so ludicrous, but you still go, ooh, that's gross because someone's shin has just been, run through a cheese grater or whatever the fuck they do. Or I don't know, they've poured vinegar on their eyeballs. Something like that. But it's not goofy. That's the sounds of spare parts, and they will be burnt into your brain.
And it's not just gore for the sake of gore. The soundscape as well, the way it's blended together is so mesmerizing and atmospheric. Just like the classic Cyberman stories in like World Enough in Time.
Yeah. So good.
There's a reason why 2 New Who stories have been based off it.
Yeah. Because it's so good.
Yeah. Oh.
Excellent.
And one that I haven't experienced, but you told me to put on this list, is the Sky Man.
I can't talk about it though.
But specifically the sound and direction and editing.
Yeah, it's so good. I can't say anything about it.
Is there any way you can talk about it without spoiling it?
Character direction's great. The sound design. It builds very well. I'll leave it at that. Just Do yourself a favor and get the War Master only the good. It's worth it just for that one story. The other three are really good as well, but that one is it's good. I really like it. I can't talk about it without spoiling. I'll do a full review of it, maybe for Patreon.
Yeah.
But I'll do that after you've listened to it, so you don't have to listen to the.
Well, you could just film it, and I could just upload it and not
True.
not listen to it.
Good idea.
And of course, we're going to finish on the first thing that came to both our minds when we saw this suggested: Heaven Sent and Hellbent. So Heaven Sent is the best directed. I did say Bad Wolf Pieing the Ways is best edited, but
so that's just why I said there's one better.
I did forget about Heaven Sent. Okay, I'll say Bad Wolf is second. Heaven Sent is the best directed, edited, and scored episode of Doctor Who ever.
Ever.
It is. I watched it recently. It's extraordinary. Everything, the character direction, the setting direction, the atmosphere, the tension, the just villain direction. From
everything little to big, in both the score and the writing and the acting and the edit.
And Murray Gold's score.
I was just I was lost for words when I first watched it. I was like, holy shit, it's one of those things that reminds me why I love filmmaking, because it can be so layered. It's not just, okay, we've got a cool script, we'll just point and shoot at it. It's, okay, how can we make the post-production of it tell its own story within this narrative? How it's like the best mystery movies, where they'll have a narrative but there's subtext throughout the whole thing. Like, where the best way to describe it is, the best stories are the ones that... Oh no, hang on, what is it? They tell you something whilst actually showing something else.
Yeah.
It's like, if you look at it, you get two stories running at the same time that are thematically and literally within the world of the text.
Yeah.
So there's subtext, there's metaphorical layers, and then there's... When they use the editing and the set design, the costume design, the production design, the soundscape and the score to exemplify all these individual small ideas, to bring them to the forefront subconsciously, that is fucking art.
Yeah.
That is art.
And this is an episode where we get an entire hour inside the Doctor's psyche.
Yeah.
And it's done the best possible way you could do that episode.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
So good.
Very rewarding experience for anyone who's thought, hey, what would it be like to be inside the Doctor's head? We got teasers of it in other episodes in Series 9, but Heaven Sent, we got an entire hour of it. And it's so good.
And there's a reason Breaking the Wall took over from Good Man.
You mean Shepherd's Boy.
Shepherd's Boy. When Shepherd's Boy... There's a reason Shepherd's Boy took over being the 12th Doctor's theme.
Yeah.
Because it represented him, obviously, character-wise, it fucked up in the next episode.
Yeah.
But that moment,
yeah,
he realised what he needed to be. His whole arc he'd been through for Series 8 and 9.
Yeah.
He got there.
Even though the journey there was rocky.
Yeah.
Where we got to in Heaven Sent
was satisfying.
Oh.
More than satisfying. It was genius.
Yeah. It completely... Everything bad that happened was wiped clean and made into something incredible. And Murray Gold's score, you can not watch Heaven Sent and you can just listen to that score and it tells its own story.
I did.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't find the episode after it first aired because I wanted to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because it didn't come onto demand till whenever, because our channel that used to broadcast it didn't have it on demand.
Yeah.
I looked up on YouTube if anyone had a version of the score, and someone did. I think it was Oswin Pond, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe
EMS Productions.
One of those guys. Yeah. And they had the whole track uploaded, and I sat down for the 53 minutes or however long the track is, maybe 48, around 48 to 53.
Yeah, and this was, and granted, this was the ripped version, not the released version a few years later.
And I sat from 0.01 seconds all the way to it ending.
Yeah.
And just in one session, no sped up, no slow down, just the whole thing as it is, listening to this beautiful score. Because that fucking moment when the accordion comes in,
Yeah.
how did he think, oh, I'm going to use a fucking accordion?
Yeah.
It's like, it's...
Yeah. And you know, and there's always this thing, whenever I'm shuffling my Spotify,
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, I'll be listening to music. But as soon as a second shadow hits, it's like, it takes me to another world that like constantly like changes my mood. It's an incredible score.
The way it's mysterious, aggressive, cathartic. It's
mirrors everything that the story is trying to tell.
And it's
and you don't even need to watch the episode to understand it. You just listen to the actual score itself.
It's like Gustav Holst's the Planets or something like that, where a piece of classical music that's not opera, that doesn't have vocals, where it tells a story just through the sound.
And that is somewhat consistent in terms of direction and sound through Hellbent as well.
And that's the only compliment we can give the episode.
Yep. This is probably the only video we're ever going to make where we actually compliment Hellbent.
Yeah. Because Rachel Talali is a fucking genius.
Yeah, and Murray
Because we talked about Graham Harper taking a mediocre script and doing something decent with it. This is Rachel Talali taking the worst script. The worst script.
Yeah.
And doing something direction-wise decent.
There's that scene where the doctor's mother walks into the barn and like she can't see who it is and she's like, what the hell's going on here? And then she walks over to him and his face goes revealed under the pillar.
Yeah, and he's looking at it.
And then you hear that sound again. Rachel Talali and Murray Gold playing together. You hear that sound of
yeah.
Do 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 do.
And then it fucking cuts to ding 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 ding. Such a pet peeve of mine that he made it diegetic. I hate that he made Clara's theme diegetic.
Wink, wink.
Wank, wank. It's just...
But, the songs like the sort of remix of the Doctor's theme from Series 1 when his mother sees him in the barn. And also, even though I hate the scene, Murray Gold's theme, A Duty of Care, on its own is amazing. It's just such a great expression of what I wished the Doctor and Clara's relationship was.
Yeah, and also, yeah. It's clearly because Moffat had an idea that was good, but he executed it just poorly.
And everything possibly could have gone wrong.
And also, the unfortunate thing is, you look at Heaven Sent, it's such a rich-looking episode, where a lot of Hellbent, especially the green screen, looks real cheap.
Oh, and I think that's more to do with the special effects than the direction, I'd say.
Yeah, but when Rachel Talali just has, a live set that's not a CGI background.
Some of the transitions that she did were really good, and I think that might even be to do with the editing. But where they go from the top of the tower and they go down into that hole. But that stuff's real good. And even though getting triggered, even though it's like probably my least favourite scene ever, the moment when the Doctor's like, I need to visit an old friend, and it fades to black, and then it slowly brings Clara, like when she was about to be hit by the Raven, like that transition in terms of storytelling is actually a really, really good transition. Unfortunately, the story around it is garbage.
It was the moment I wanted to scream. No, it is the moment I screamed. I was like, I actually yelled, what the fuck are you doing?
It was literally like Doctor Who as a show's Red Wedding. Just died.
Yeah. But it's the opposite because it's bringing a character back to life.
Yeah.
God. I suppose we should end it on a positive
note.
The
instead of the Red Wedding, it's the Orange Funeral. I guess it'd be the White Funeral if the classic TARDIS. I watched Hellbent recently.
Why?
Because I'm showing my friends.
Why? What's the point? Why do we do this channel? What's the point? Why? What's the point? What's the point? Why? Why do we try?
It's not canon. Doesn't count.
That's right. It's not canon.
It was
a dream.
It was a fever dream.
Yeah,
like I said,
because I love
the
how
reason why Clara's character was so boring is because it's a memory. You know how the Doctor doesn't remember her?
yeah.
It's because he doesn't remember what her actual personality was.
Yeah,
That's
and
why
also,
she was so boring.
it's also because I love how he gets out onto Gallifrey, and they leave it a mystery, and then we next see him, he's just on that planet where River is, and he has a romp with River. That's genius.
You know
how they just don't tell us what happened there. We got the
You know what it is? You know
What?
what happened? You know when at the end of Husbands of River Song they have like that 24-year date.
Yeah,
They get really, really drunk, and he tells her about this story of Hellbent, and that's what he said because he was so drunk.
yeah.
He doesn't remember like actually what happened, and he's like, "Oh, my friend Clara was there, and yeah, don't know what happened." We'll never find out what actually happened on Gallifrey.
Maybe they'll do a big finish of it, and it'll be great.
Yep. But Rachel Talalay and Murray Gold.
Brilliant.
The one redeeming factor of Hellbent. And that's the last time you're ever going to hear us give a positive overall review of that episode, because no other fucking video would possibly...
I love how the positive review still turned into a rant.
Anyway, thank you for suggesting Brighter.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed this video.
Brother, you don't like Hellbent, do you? I can't remember.
Second to last... Let's Go Hitler was below, I think, for Brighter.
Oh, interesting.
Because Brighter suggested the Let's Go Hitler vs. Hellbent.
That's right, yes.
Which you can check out on our Nightmare of Eden review.
Which is, at time of recording this is the most recent video up on the channel.
Oh, you know it is, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, technically.
Well, because we got the Patreon exclusive, but
anyway.
like patrons can enjoy that.
But anyway, if any of you want to suggest a video, then join the Master Tier, and we'll do basically anything you want that's within reason.
Preferably Doctor Who related, but if there's like other TV shows or movies you want us to talk, like say we mentioned something,
I'm not going to set my hair on fire or jump out of the building. That's not what I'm going to do.
Like if there's something you want us to review,
like
or
say
talk about,
like say for example, you've scrolled through YouTube and there's like you want to find a video that's you're looking for a video to find and no one's done one. Like, ask us to do that because I'll be happy to do it. I'm happy to review anything that I'm aware of or familiar with.
Yeah. We'll do as much research as we can onto
and actually, if there's like a book or a big finish that you want us to review that we haven't seen, we'll happily buy it and listen to it and review it for you if you like.
Yeah.
But yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed that video.
Yeah.
Don't know what's next, but yeah, we've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up.
We've got a lot of plans.
When we get to it.
Got a lot of plans and things are in motion again, so stay tuned.
Just got to get onto it. So, anything else you want to say?
See you guys soon.
Yeah.